you want to fight with the power of God and anime on your side? What about fighting gods with the power of anime on your side? Luckily for you, you don't have to wait for the rest of the live-action Percy Jackson series to fight the gods. Instead, the wonderful world of Webtoon Original Series has you covered, as there are plenty of action series that take a casual stroll through multiple different mythologies and pantheons, some that are familiar and some that might not be. Let's start out with a series set in Greek mythology. Before we get too far out of your comfort zone, Pantheon. Pantheon is an amazing action series set in the Greek pantheon and, equally as important, a clever twist on everything you thought you knew about it. We follow Corbin. Corbin is a demigod. He's a demigod, which is technically more accurate, as Corbin isn't a demigod by birth, but by accident? Yeah, as he was paying respects to Hades, as you do, a voice inside him compels him to grab his bidents, and when he does, power surges into him. Hence the whole demigod by accident thing. Starting the prophecy. Oh yeah, the series starts off with a prophecy that we don't really get and we still kind of don't fully know, but we know Corbin is at the center of it. The series really stands out. The action is so cool. I know I joked about fighting gods with the power of anime on your side, but these gods literally have anime attacks that are named, and it's wildly beautiful and really adrenaline pumping. But another highlight is the changes, and I think the first couple of episodes encapsulate this perfectly, with two characters you might already know. Perseus, the legendary hero and son of Zeus, and Medusa, the monster who turns those who look at her into stone. But for those who know, not everyone that looks like a hero is a hero, and not everyone that looks like a monster is a monster. And Pantheon really shows that. Perseus isn't shown as this amazing and heroic hero, but as the villain. And Medusa isn't this terrifying, monstrous villain, but she's presented as not only a victim, but a part of the main cast. These little changes mean so much for the entire series. We get new dynamics, new motivations, new character arcs. Has Medusa ever met the god of death in the original mythology? I mean, probably not, but here she slaps him and it's great. There's so much that this series has in store for you. Intriguing mysteries, amazing action, and compelling characters. But if you're sick of Greek mythology, and I can't blame you, and you want something you likely haven't experienced before, then we've got two other series that extend into other pantheons. Starting with End of Maat is so cool. It has the same author as Immortal Weakling, so you know it's gonna be good. It focuses on Egyptian mythology with a group of siblings, Kai, Ryu, and Sati. These three have been through the ringer. Their father is MIA, their mother died, and Sati, the youngest of the three, is so ill that she can't even get out of bed. Kai and Ryu have spent their years working themselves to the bone to give offerings to the gods to heal their little sister. These three have a great dynamic. Kai is a wild, emotional himbo who would fight the sun if it was bothering his family, which is less of a joke and more of an actual thing he literally said. Ryu is the anxious, book-smart middle child, and Sati is the parent of the group even though she's the youngest. These three's sibling bond is really the highlight of the series. Them caring for each other, protecting each other, and helping them guide each other is great. Unfortunately though, it doesn't last forever. Actually, it doesn't last past the first episode, as all the offerings they gave didn't save Sati, and she passes away. This is where that sibling bond comes into play, as it sparks an intense hatred in Kai, as he makes it his mission to fight and kill the gods. Yeah, kill all of the gods. Doesn't matter which one, he'll definitely try. Not only does he Super Mario 64 yeets the god Acre, but he also figures out a way to punch with his soul to hurt the gods somehow, leading to weirdly amazing fight scenes, all wrapped up in a story of siblings loving and caring enough for each other that they would fight gods themselves. But if you want a mythology set in a more modern age, then we got Mythic item obtained seems like the standard reverse isekai at first glance, i.e. when fantasy elements, monsters, and a system appears randomly on Earth one day, and humanity has to fight off these fantasy elements while being given some magical powers somehow. And our main character did try that whole thing, fighting monsters, clearing dungeons, protecting the world, but he kind of sucked at it and never really got far in life, and by the end of the third episode, just dies, but is thrown back in time to start a new life. However, this is where the series really stands out compared to other reverse isekais, and that is with the mythology. Unlike other ones, we're given a clear reason as to why these things are happening, and that's because of the Norse gods. Right at the beginning, we get a peek onto the upcoming war, that being Ragnarok. And it's not just some flavor added to the series to make it a little more interesting, but an integral part of the story, as the mythic item that the title name drops is Odin's Lost Eye, and our main character is able to use it to destroy magic and copy other people's abilities. Not to mention the monsters he faces and the allies he gains have some connection to the Norse pantheon. It's a really refreshing take on the reverse isekai, and having our main character being tied to the Norse mythology side of things make it a really important part of the series. Meanwhile, we got one last series. Technically, mythology ain't what it's about, but it's still a great series if you have an interest in it. Comparatively, Omniscient Reader is just another reverse isekai. The extra spice isn't the mythology, but that Kim Doksha has read the fantasy world that's invading his world. It's a very clever meta commentary on stories, but being such a meta commentary on stories means that all kinds of stories pop up through the series, mainly through constellations. Stick with me here. The world is facing all these challenges, right? And they're being streamed by these guys, the Dokkaebi. They stream it to the constellations, who in turn give donations and choose players to give them powers, like they choose tributes. These constellations are where things get really interesting. Some of them are kind of like nameless entities, others are historical figures, but many are from stories, from legends, from myths. We have constellations that are from Indian epics, Chinese mythology, and the one that plays the most important role in the story, Greek mythology. As there's an entire arc of Doksha going to the underworld to face off with Persephone herself, even partaking in his own trials like Hercules. Comparatively, this series isn't mainly about mythology, but still shines as an important part of the story. And that mentality can kind of be applied to every series I mentioned before. While most series, especially Pantheon and End of Matt, focus a lot more on the mythology set in their time and region, a lot of these series are just a little off from the original mythos. Every series plays with the story you'd expect just a little. Just enough to throw you off, to keep things interesting, to make even the biggest fans of these stories, from the ones who read and watch Percy Jackson to the ones who've read the original myth, be surprised and intrigued by the wonderful world that these webtoon series offer. So if you're just a little intrigued in any of these series, please go check them out today over on Webtoon.